I started actually straight out of university. I really didn't know what I wanted to do. In fact, even in university, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had chosen a philosophy degree because literally the study of life. And I thought I'll study life and see where it takes me. And then from there, I went into a master's in computing science because a bunch of guys that I shared a house with in my second year, physics students, told me that philosophy wasn't a real degree and I couldn't do a real degree, a proper hard science degree. And I thought, could if I wanted. So I did. And then after that, I still thought, well, I don't know whether that's what I want to do or whether it's something else. So I just applied for the whole range of graduate schemes and some PhDs and just anything that I was qualified to apply for just to see what turned up, working under the premise that the right opportunity will just fall into my lap if I, spread my options. And I got a kind of graduate scheme with a hospitality industry. And so I started there, and after 3 months, they moved me into a more computerized role. They decided they'd take all the tills out and replace them with computers. And so I started doing that as a rollout, and that was really the start of my career in tech. And from there, we were outsourced to IBM, and then I did a few years there, which I loved, and then I moved to Australia and worked for a Australian company for a little while, but I missed it. The big company thing, the sort of being part of something greater than yourself, and the corporate culture and the tech culture. And so I applied for a job in Microsoft, and it was exactly what I was looking for. Like most of the big tech companies, they were started by two guys in a garage in California. So Bill Gates was our founder, and he created it in a garage, and all of those guys in those days were all copying off each other. So, Apple and all of that, they were all kicking around HP, and they started stuff back then, and it became a huge software company. It was mostly famous back then for, obviously they started Windows, DOS before that was incredibly popular. And then when people think of Microsoft old school, they think of Microsoft Office. But we're so much more than that today. And like every big company that is still around today that was around back then, you have to reinvent yourself and completely change what you're doing if you want to be successful and if you want to continue. And everyone's done it. But I think that right now we're really at the top of our game. So it's quite a flat structure in that, not that there's no layers of management, but that Microsoft hires really smart people and they trust you to do your job. So the people in my team that have the same job as me, I would say that there's not a single one of us that does it in the same way. We have a lot of information, a lot of training, a lot of, there's framework, there's structure, there's templates, there's things that you can use in order to do your job so that you're not set loose on the world and with no idea what you're doing. But you're entirely free to do it in whatever way you want to. So where you work, you can work from home, from a customer site, from a cafe, from a different country, whatever you want. As long as you get your job done, then you're trusted to do it, and the hours that you do it as well. So we have managers, but they're sort of coaching you, and they're looking at dashboards to see whether you've ticked all your boxes and done all your tasks, but they're not, on your back all the time. And the structure is more leadership than management, I would say. People are there to inspire us and show us the way rather than smack us and say, behave better and work harder. My official role is service delivery manager. I have right now a bunch of government customers, state government customers that I take care of. And what happens is those customers will have purchased support contracts with Microsoft. And my job, really what I'm KPI'd to do, is make sure that what they have spent with us, they use, so that they don't feel like they've wasted their money at the end of the year. And they will want to renew that contract because they feel like not just they've used it, but also they've got a little bit extra from me. And also, there is a push on all of us right now to do that, to make sure that what customers buy from us, they use and they use well. Because in the past, I think a lot of vendors would sell stuff to customers and before the ink was dry on the check, they would run away and not care whether you used it or not. They had your money and that was it. Whereas you cannot do business in that world anymore. You have to have skin in the game with your customers. You have to care about taking care of them, and you have to try and give them the most value you can. Otherwise, they will just take their business elsewhere. So yeah, it's more partnership than customer and vendor relationship these days. It's very consultative, I guess. I am of the opinion that, if you hire smart people or surround yourself with smart people, then all of them have something that they're going to bring to the table. And the key to a good leader is figure out what things that person can bring, because of course we all have a lot of baggage. Our parents, maybe expected us to be doctors or engineers, and then if we're something else, we can't help but hear those voices in our head saying, but you should be more mathematical, say the logical thing, instead of playing to your own strengths. And so trying to read people, trying to understand them, trying to listen to them, and therefore encourage them to bring what they have to the table and not think it's not as worthy as other skills that other people have. Officially good performance, the KPI that we are looking for in each of us is a kind of above 15% growth. So where I said we're looking to renew those contracts and, make the customer want to do more, 15% more or more than 15% more would be good. But of course you cannot do that with every customer, because there are some customers that are really small and, they can only do so much. But that's fine, because you have to look at the whole patch as a big picture, and then see what you can do to sort of, bring the overall figure to above that. For me, what it looks like is happy customers and them telling me they're happy and them telling me they got great value out of the engineers and that they want to do more engagements with them. And I'm not great with numbers. I don't really care about the money. I'm terrible actually with my own personal incentives, because I look at the dashboards and I don't know what any of it means. But I just try every day to do the right thing by my customers and help them and add value to them. And that's success for me, and hopefully it all adds up. It changed. So in the old school way, all software companies were selling software by licenses, and they would try and sell as much of those as they could, and they didn't care whether anyone used them. And that was pretty ugly and pretty horrific if you work in delivery like I do. We always had bad things to say about sales guys in the old days, whereas now it's a whole new world, and the sales guys are on the same team as us, and they care as much as we do about consumption. And the reason for that is because it's not just software licenses we sell anymore. Everyone sells cloud. And when you sell cloud, it's about how much you use, not about how much you sell. So no one sells cloud up front and says, buy buy a little cloud and then get an extra medium cloud for free. They say pay for what you use, and then, of course, they want to encourage you to use more. However, they don't want to encourage you to use so much that you can't afford it either, because then that means you're likely to stop using it and look for other solutions. So therefore, they have skin in the game to try and get people to use stuff, but use it well. And if they are using too much, to find ways to use it more efficiently and to use it in a smarter way, so that there isn't really a cheaper way that you could do stuff. And yeah, it makes me a lot happier these days, because that model where everyone is working to help the customer get the best deal, that's win-win for everyone. The culture is outstanding. So there are other big cloud companies that offer a lot of money for you to go and work there. And of course, they're always trying to lure Microsoft employees over there. But Microsoft has the best culture for sure. It is known for it. Yeah, that's the thing for sure. We work as one team. We try and help each other out. The culture. So after Bill Gates, then it was Steve Ballmer that was the CEO. Steve Ballmer was a sales guy and an accountant, so he loved the spreadsheets and he loved the dashboards, and that was an era where they continued to grow, but towards the end, it was no longer working. His old school methodology was not congruent with the world that we needed to move into. And then Satya Nadella took over. Satya has been an engineer in Microsoft. He started in India and he moved to the United States. And he is this gentle, soft-spoken Indian guy who loves his wife, loves his family, and cares more about people than things. And so he wrote a book last year or the year before called Hit Refresh. And on the day that book was released, in every Microsoft office around the world, every single Microsoft employee received a hardback copy. But not just a hardback copy of the book as it would appear in the stores, a special annotized copy. So in all the margins of the book, he had written extra little notes and he had highlighted points and he put arrows and things all through the book. And so a special employee edition to every single one of the hundreds of thousands of Microsoft employees across the world. And when you read the book, he's sharing his personal journey. So he's talking about his life from the start and up until where he is in Microsoft. But he's sharing such personal content about himself, about his family, and you can't help but be moved by how open and authentic he is. And he's, the other side of the world to us, but he's a real person to me. I feel like I know him, and I feel like he knows us, each of us, that his voice is our corporate voice, is our soul. As I said, all the big companies really, they started in quite a traditional way and copied each other in the way that they did that. But the world has changed, and those companies that do not change will not survive it. So far, not that there's been no one lost, because famously the Facebook sign in Silicon Valley sits in front of the Sun Microsystems sign. So it replaced that new company replaced the old one and didn't even bother to knock down their sign. They just put it in front of it. So yeah, people have been lost along the way, but you have to figure out how to change. And there's a really good book called, well, there's two books by the same guy, Built to Last and From Good to Great. And those books talk about, so Built to Last, it talks about IBM and those other massive companies and what they did in order to form the kind of structure and framework that would last as long as they have lasted. And then Good to Great talks about how you can have a good company and it can last a long time, but then how some of them, at a certain point, then completely flipped a switch and did something completely new and then went from here to here. And it's that kind of change, I think, that we made under Satya. People disliked us. They thought that we were, the big behemoth company. We were the empire. We were the man. We were, we were the old school and taking advantage of the little man and not creative and, all enterprise and not interesting and all of that. And where we are now is we are cool again. Microsoft is cool. And how do you do that? How do you take a company that has such a massive reputation but and make it into something cool? But he has, because he's forced us to let down all of our safeguards, take down all the walls, all of the boundaries, and start being real people, not, try and hide behind the glamour of Microsoft, but to be who we are and to bring those individuals to the game. And the people they hire now are, they will go after troublemakers and rebels and, people who aren't afraid to say whatever they think is the truth. And because that's what they want. They don't want yes men. They don't want, well, all men either. They want a diversity of thought. They want an inclusive environment, and they want people that have an empathy with their customers. And in order to do that, you have to, let down all of your guards and be real with people and listen to them. And it is that our human side, I think, that has really changed who we are. And then if you look at the technology, artificial intelligence, the robots are rising up, and we are trying to teach them to be kind, because when you raise a robot army, there is a danger that they will look at what we are saying on the internet and reach this very solid conclusion that the biggest danger to the planet Earth and the biggest danger to humanity is humans themselves. And therefore the best thing they can do for the planet is to kill us all. I'm laughing, but it's an absolutely logical conclusion. And so when you are training your artificial intelligences, you have to teach them to be empathic, to have some understanding and to have some patience, because if you just teach them all logic, then we are doomed. So everyone buys it. There's few people that do not have some Microsoft product somewhere. So obviously all the people using, laptops that aren't Apple then are having Windows desktop and all of that. Office is obviously everywhere. But if you want an Apple product, then maybe you're not using Office, although you should, because it's the product on the Apple is an even better product than it is on a Windows machine. They really worked hard to make that super slick. Skype. So a lot of people use Skype. It's through everything. I would guess, though, that our biggest customers are still enterprises, are still corporate customers and governments, because The difference between our platform and everyone else's is that we are focused on that audience, and therefore we need it to be really secure. We need it to be unbreakable. Apple are focused on a consumer market. They have never been focused on a corporate or government market, so therefore they don't have the same level of security across their products that we have. But that's fine because they don't need to. So they can simply purchase some of that within our cloud. So, they could put their money component in our cloud and get that same level of security for their customers, and that would be invisible to their customers. And that's the smart thing to do, because otherwise you have to build in all those levels of security yourself. And why would you when your home customers are not willing to pay for it? I've talked a lot about cloud, so I'll talk about artificial intelligence and data. That is the most exciting thing, I think. Oh, no, is it? Because there's also mixed reality. That's also pretty exciting. Artificial intelligence and data is interesting because it's such a huge field. I did artificial intelligence in my computing science masters more than 20 years ago. And back then it was sort of ELIZA. We were talking about the Turing test, and ELIZA was a computer program that would kind of mirror a counsellor. So, you would say, I feel sad, and she'd say, oh, you seem sad. Do you want to talk about it? And you'd say, my brother made me angry. And she'd say, oh, sounds like you have some problems with your brother. Do you want to tell me about it? She'd just be reflecting back what you were saying all the time. But people were often fooled into thinking she was a real person because she was so sympathetic, when all she was really doing was reflecting back what they were saying. Now today, where we are today, is just a million miles forward from that. It is anyone could create their own chatbot within an hour. It's pretty easy to do because there are all of these wizards, there are all of these tools where you just click, click, click. I want a chatbot. What kind of chatbot do you want? Is it a, Q&A one that will answer facts? Is it a counsellor? Is it a Twitter bot? What do you want your bot to do? And then you click onto the next and the next, and then you reach a point where you're training the bot. So you can do that yourself, or you can feed external data into it. And more sources have been uploading their data onto the web. So you don't theoretically, you do not even need to train your own bot. You can just find a data source, load all that data in, and let it learn from that information, and off it goes. Bots is one aspect of it, but it's not the only aspect. Predictive analytics, for example, it's absolutely changing the way that the resources industry works in WA. Then, of course, there's the automation. They have all of those trucks and trains driving themselves up there. And even we in Perth, we have, in South Perth, we have those little buses, the RAC buses, that are driving themselves around and have been for a couple of years. And when I think about that, and I think about people talking about, self-driving cars and what a great thing it is. And we've been doing it here for more than 2 years, here in WA, our little town on the edge of the world. The RAC ones are not a Microsoft thing, I should say. It's a WA innovation. But that kind of that automation in all that we do, that's a huge thing that is part of the data and AI set. It's kind of really limitless in all of the possibilities we have for changing the way we work today and enabling a more productive workplace of the future. And so that the kids aren't scared, there will always be jobs. There are not less jobs in WA today than there were 20 years ago, there were more jobs, and we are in fact so desperate for more people working in tech. We cannot fill the number of jobs that we have, and the predictions for how many we will need over the next 5 years, the universities do not have enough people coming out of them to meet that need. So it isn't that all the automation and all of the analytics and all of the wonderful, wonderful, clever things that is being done will replace human beings. It will just take away the boring stuff, and it will enable us to do more interesting things. And the people who will not have jobs in the future are those that refuse to change, are those that refuse to do something more interesting than what they were doing today. And I think it's a little bit sad for those people, not because they won't have a job, but because they don't want to be happy. What it takes to succeed is that thirst for continuous learning, that desire to look for what is next, and a sort of interest in trying to understand how to do things. Because, I mean, that's part of what has made Microsoft so successful today, is that we have those teams where we are all willing to help each other, where we're all trying to grow, but we're not growing as individuals, we're growing as a company, and we're helping each other up. Well, I hope that they're here. It seems like they're here. Whenever I come into the universities, they are the students that I meet seem so smart and interested and engaged and questioning and cooperative. So yeah, I think they are here. But they could be anywhere, I suppose. That the difference in WA, I guess we've had it for a while, where you didn't have to have a degree in WA to be successful, because we are so few people and so desperate to innovate and move on. We'll take anyone sometimes, and it is more the mindset than the qualifications or the experience that people are looking for. So yeah, it doesn't really matter what country they come from, what educational background they come from, what class they come from. None of these things, gender, none of that matters anymore. What matters is what you are bringing to the table, and that collaborative mindset, that open mindset, that thirst for knowledge, those people will be the leaders of the future. And those that refuse to change and refuse to learn and refuse to grow, those are the ones that will be left behind. You cannot do what people did in the past, which was, go to Seek, look at the jobs, take your same CV and send that out 200 times for 200 jobs. You will not get any. You will not get any interviews. Well, unless you were, the top of your class in Dean's List. But in fact, if you were, you're already smart enough not to be sending the same CV for every job. LinkedIn instead of CVs. Why would anyone in the modern age be passing around a dead tree? Why would they not make use of the free tools that are available to us? LinkedIn is not just your CV online, but it gives you an opportunity to talk about what you know, to share your knowledge, to write blogs and articles, to write interesting posts where you share things that you know. It puts your name in front of the people that you want to work for. And you can also collect all of those references on there that in the past you would have lost them. I have 30 or 40 references on my LinkedIn profile, and I don't have any from 20 years ago because LinkedIn wasn't around then, and I don't know where the piece of paper is where they wrote the reference, and I no longer have an email address for that guy that I worked for. But when I look at the references that I have on LinkedIn, there are people that I worked with maybe 10, 15 years ago. And it makes me cry when I read how sweet those things are from that long ago. And then you can progress all the way through to ones that I've got today, and you can understand not just what I am like as a person to work with now, but, you know, my entire growth, my entire career growth, and what I have been like throughout my career to work with, which makes me much more employable. If you can just read all of that before you even see me at interview, you already know who I am. You already know what I'm like to work with, what I'm like to work for, what I am like as an employee, what I'm like as a customer, a partner, a vendor. All of those things are obvious from my LinkedIn profile. So yeah, definitely do LinkedIn. Start that now. Get your first recommendation from one of your lecturers. Get started. Second thing is meetups. You will not get those interviews or those jobs from sending your CV to people you do not know. But if you come to meetups, at most meetups, companies will stand up and say, we're hiring right now, and this is the job we're hiring. Come and talk to us afterwards about that job. Even if you do not want to apply for that job, it's still worth going to talk to those people. Your face will become known to them. You'll learn about that company, and you will get to speak to other people within that company. Knowing which company you want to work for is as important as, well, I don't know, picking out your husband or wife of the future. Perhaps you're going to work for that company for, several years, which might be as long as you'd be married. And so you should go into it with the same kind of due diligence. You should research that company. You should know what their culture is like, whether you want to work for them. It isn't just about the offer they put on the table. The money isn't enough to keep you there these days. It has to be about whether you're going to enjoy that job, whether you're going to like working there. So how are you going to find that out? You get insight by going to meetups. The meetups are held within different company venues a lot of the time. And also people from different companies go to those meetups. And also it is the continuous learning that you will continue after university. So you may as well start building that network and getting that form of learning now. So on meetup.com, on Eventbrite, on Facebook even. Start going to those meetups, and also start volunteering as a mentor for things that you can help with, like Coder Dojo, or other hackathons, or either sign up to do the hackathon or sign up as a mentor to help with the hackathon. And in fact, you don't have to be more expert to be a mentor in the hackathon or to teach code than if you were doing it, because all the materials, all the information is always going to be there. It's more a sort of show willing. And the reason I'm saying do it is because those things make your LinkedIn profile more interesting. They show that you are contributing to community, that you're getting involved, that you're giving back, that you're helping, that you're networking, that you're doing interesting stuff, that you're learning, and it sets you apart from those people that are not. So yeah, those are my three things: LinkedIn, meetups, and some sort of mentoring or helping out or being involved in hackathons or code days, even if you are not a tech, even if you are in marketing or whatever. This is for everyone. The competition. So there is so much learning available right now on the internet. You can, get MIT's entire course catalogue for free on the internet. And not just them, plenty of other Stanford, high universities are publishing all of their courses online for free. But not just the university courses. What is more of a danger is the 5 and 10 minute videos where you can just learn how to build your bot, or you can just learn how to open your cloud, or, whatever is the exact thing that you want to learn how to do. And those things are continually being refreshed overnight, so they're current. And university courses, of course, can never be as current as stuff like that. So you're competing with people that are learning from continually refreshed evergreen content. and you're trying to say my degree is more worthy. And in some ways it is. Well, I would definitely argue that a university degree, an overall university degree, is bringing you much more. It's worthwhile. It's worthwhile. But in the future, I would say that you will have more and more of a difficulty proving that against all of these kids that are coming out saying we don't need that, we know all of this stuff, and we're current, and we know more than you, and we're quicker than you, we're more agile than you. So you have to not think that your degree is the be all and end all, and that you'll come out of that and you'll be able to beat everyone, because you won't. It's not just them, it's the overseas students that are all coming with their masters already in hand, or their PhDs, or I don't know, a million certifications. Everyone is working harder and doing more. You have to ask yourself all the time, what can I do to add something to my portfolio? What can I do to showcase that I've got skills? And, without LinkedIn, you're lost.